in the world, welcome. You have come to the Hot Angry Mom channel. Please subscribe, give our series a like. Hot Angry Mom is a dark comedy about a people-pleasing New York City mom who discovers that anger is her superpower when a video of her epic meltdown becomes a viral sensation. This series was inspired by my real life and my journey to renegotiate my relationship with anger as a mother, as an artist, and as a woman in our world today. I finished the draft that we ended up shooting. So I wrote the series in 2020. And I raised funds and hired a crew, and we made the series indie level in 2021. And then we edited the series in 2022, and we began our festival journey in 2023. Hot Hangry Mom has been to, I think, about 26 festivals worldwide. We've been nominated for more than 50 awards. We've won, I think, 22 awards. Including Best Director, Best Pilot, Best Ensemble, Best Lead Actress, even for our trailers. In some places we got awards, and we ranked number 2 in the US and number 5 in the world in something called the Web Series World Cup. I made the series literally to save my own life. Like, you know, when you need to listen to your inner voice. And part of the way I was able to do that was by writing and creating the world that I wanted to be in, or the art that I needed to step into at that time, and still have a very strong relationship to, which is part of why I'm live on this channel. Some news about Hot Angry Mom this week. Last week, 1 week today, I went live with our partner Mom Cave TV to have a little chat with Jen, who is their founder. We have partnered to try to get Hot Angry Mom to more moms through an app called Watchy TV. So it's a streaming app where you can watch all kinds of projects, films, short film series for free. You download it, you watch it for free, and then when you do, we get paid. It's like the tiniest little amount for every view, but they can potentially add up, and we appreciate every single view. You can also watch Hot Angry Mom here on our channel. Right now, what you can see is the micro series, currently cut into 6 different short form episodes. We have a half-hour pilot, which is edited a little bit differently, but it's following a similar story. Yeah, so that's a little bit about us. Oh, so that was last week. We partnered with Mom Cave. We went live to announce that we're now on this new streaming app and how you can find that. So you can download Watchy, WATCHIE TV, and you can download it, watch the series. We would appreciate it. Hope you enjoy it, and share it with anyone who might enjoy it, but especially a mom. Also, we had some more big news that we announced last week. Hot Angry Mom has been shortlisted for a People's Telly Award for micro budget projects. We used SAG-AFTRA's micro budget agreement to shoot our series. And we are very proud of what we did with the means that we had. And we are currently nominated for a Telly Award, and part of what they make available is the People's Telly, where they put projects on a public-facing platform, and they invite the public to vote on which films are your favorite films, and whoever gets the most votes wins. So it's a wonderful opportunity to have our film exposed to people who might not see us otherwise, and to check it out and see if they enjoy it, and if so, to give us 5 stars. So I have put in the comments or description of this live a link that you can go to where you can watch it, you can rate it, and we appreciate it. Okay, so something happened last week. This is my 5th live ever, and I just want to say why I'm doing this, and like, what is this thing? What have you shown up to? So there's this incredible quote that Liz Plank put out that I really love, and I'm sort of embracing it. I'm going to reread it again. I think I might have read it the first live or the second live that I tried, or not tried, I did it. I went live. I was also terrified, and I can talk a little bit about what that is and why that's to the point of what I'm doing now. But she said, "I think in this moment, albeit terrifying, I think I read it wrong. Let me start again. I think this moment, albeit terrifying, should give all of us permission to do something I've been thinking about for a while. Soft launch our nihilistic girl era, a time of radical detachment, strategic delusion, and refusing to feel shame for things that powerful, incompetent men don't even register as mistakes. So, what does this live have to do with that? For me personally, I spend so much time preparing things before I share them, polishing them, imagining that if anyone is going to give me their attention and listen to what I have to say, I better have really thought about it, researched it, be very clear and articulate, like polished in the way I present everything. And I love her post because it feels like it's giving me permission to be my whole authentic, messy self and to stop. Not that some things shouldn't be polished, but that process of waiting or holding things in or feeling that they're not good enough to contribute until it's been through this whole other process is just bullshit. And we're not doing it. We're not doing it anymore. So I'm trying something new. And the practice as an artist to show up, to look at a camera, to invite people to show up with me, and to speak unscripted is a process of me being in my spine and using my voice and trusting myself and letting myself be seen. And it's one of my gifts as an artist, as an actress, particularly because I have such a very alive, very feeling body. And through that, there's something to be witnessed of humanity that I think is why people watch lives. I'm still figuring it out because I was not a big consumer of lives, which is where someone shows up and just starts talking to a camera. I am above the generation for whom cell phones and these kinds of interactions are a natural, normal part of life. I didn't have my first cell phone until maybe I was getting my master's degree, and we called it a mobile. I didn't even have my first laptop until I was done college. Like I went to computer labs back then. So yeah, so this is a new interesting form for me, and thank you for showing up and participating. By being here, by rewatching. Okay, so what do I want to talk about today? So I'm going to do a bit of a somatic landing. This was something that happened last week because I was feeling super nervous. I'll explain what that is in a minute, but just so I can get more present and maybe slow down a little bit and be a little more clear with you. I'll share what was going on in my life last week as an artist and creator in New York City. It also reminds me like of what cool stuff I get to do and makes me feel grateful. And then I'm really interested today in sharing with you an article about what's happening with the current administration's Department of Education policies around DEI and threats that have been made around funding and sort of an interplay, and a superintendent who spoke up as many educators, including I think it's the National Federation of Teachers, are standing up and saying, this is what we believe, this is what we're willing to do, this is what we're not willing to do. And as a person who is a writer, creator, an artist, a mother, I've been a student and I am a teaching artist. I go into various schools and I share various things. I have a big personal stake and care a lot about this, so I will speak from my experience. And also because of what people seem to think these arguments over education are about, I just share my own insights. So welcome. Hopefully that sounds interesting and you'll hang out for a while. So somatics have to do with the body, the senses. And right now, all of our nervous systems, particularly if you consume a lot of online content or you just read any piece of news, your nervous system is likely to be activated into fight, flight, freeze, or surrender. And we all have different ways that we respond to trauma, what the body perceives as a heightened state. If you go into a heightened state but release it, then it's not actually trauma, right? It doesn't get locked in your body. It doesn't hold. And so sometimes we're able to process what's happening in the world around us if we have a lot of resilience, and we can let very inciting and activating incidents pass through us and not really be a big deal that continues to haunt us. However, if we don't have a strong foundation in which to be calm, to be resilient, to get care, then we're on heightened alert all the time. It becomes really difficult to see other people, hear other people, understand what they actually mean, and to be able to listen to yourself to decide what you think and feel and what you know from the beauty of your individual experience. So I'm going to do a very brief exercise that is a somatic landing. I'm doing it very much for myself. You are welcome to join me in it. I said before last week when I did it, it feels kind of embarrassing. I'm a voice coach as well, so if I was leading a room of people, we would do a collective landing and no one would really be watching me do this. But you're welcome to participate or just watch me be a weirdo. I'm okay with that. I think it's a wonderful gift to give to myself and others. So you're getting it for free. Beautiful. So the first thing that I'm doing is I happen to be sitting on a cushion on my floor. And I'm really interested in exploring touch today. So I'm noticing. I'm noticing where the bottom of my spine falls, and I'm noticing my little sits bones down there and feeling where they connect with the cushion. And just a little giggle came up, like some second grade version of me was kind of delighted that I'm talking about my butt. And I'm feeling that connection. And I'm also just noticing that I'm wearing clothing and I can feel the clothing touching different parts of my body. There are parts that I'm completely not aware of, but others where I can feel the connection and I really am aware of it. I'm sensing it. So I'm sensing the waistband of my sweatpants. Yay, sweatpants. I am noticing the feel of the fabric, the inside of the fabric on the inside of my clothes, around my bottom where I'm sitting. I can feel the drape of the fabric, particularly on the inside of my elbows. And I'm allowing myself to breathe. And I'm noticing that I'm breathing. And actually I'm gonna pay attention to a moment to my sense of taste. I'm not going to eat anything in front of you, but I'm just going to activate that sense and my awareness around it for a moment. So I'm rubbing my tongue on the roof of my mouth. I'm just sort of waking it up. And you can kind of explore with your tongue inside your mouth and feel bits that are very like pliable, malleable, soft. You can find hard bits like your teeth. You can explore the roof of your mouth. There's a hard bit in the front, your hard palate, and there's a soft, squishy part in the back. And you can notice, do you taste these different parts of your mouth? Do they have different flavors? Different textures? I really taste, this morning, I've replaced coffee with a mushroom coffee, which has a much smaller amount of caffeine. And then it has all these mushroom ingredients that are supposed to be good for focus. I like the Rise brand. I am not a sponsor. They don't pay me money to say that. I was saying it because I could really taste that in different parts of my mouth. Interesting. So what I also notice is that as I've begun with curiosity, asking questions and answering with my own noticing, that my nervous system is regulating itself. It's beginning to calm down. So my speech may be a little bit slower and maybe I'm a little bit clearer, particularly to people who do not live in New York City, where everything here moves at a very quick pace including our thoughts and our speech. And I'm going back to the sense of touch, and just gonna rub my hands together. And I feel a little bit of heat. For the person who just dropped in, welcome. I'm doing a somatic landing. I'll get to more of the topic in the title of the article, but I'm beginning by regulating my nervous system, so you're welcome to join me. I'm rubbing my hands together, and now I feel sort of the atoms bouncing around, or a bit of an energetic charge. I'm noticing what's happening to my breath. Now I'm going to take my hand and place it on my clothes and just sort of feel the sweatshirt that I'm wearing today, what that fabric feels like to me. You're welcome to join me and do this yourself, or you can watch me. Maybe it seems a bit weird, but that's fine. I'm touching my skin now and just noticing, what does it feel like today? Is it my fingers touching my arm, or my arm receiving touch from my fingers? Like, you can shift your awareness very subtly between those two things. I find this endlessly delightful to decide if I'm touching or being touched. I think the answer is both and, but you can, at least I think this is true for all humans, but I can only sense one thing at a time. This practice of coming into our senses, of sensing one thing at a time, of allowing ourselves to be in our bodies and experience sensation, temperature, emotions, thoughts ping and pop up, and just sort of letting them move from one thing to the other without holding on to any one thing too tightly. This begins to bring us into our presence, which in our world today, I think you might agree, is an invaluable gift to give yourself. Great. So before I dive into our topic, our main topic today, which is around DEI and the Department of Education and threats to funding, and how one educator or superintendent is sort of standing up and speaking out. Hi, Bryce. Oh no, Brian, sorry. My eyes can't see because I'm not wearing my glasses. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today and for showing up for the lives and being there on the replay sometimes. I was just doing a somatic landing. Maybe that was you with me and you got to experience a little bit of that. I'm going to share a bit about my super cool week before I dive into the article that I'm interested in talking about. So last week, I work for Lincoln Center. I am one of their teaching artists, which means that they do these beautiful main stage productions at Lincoln Center, and they are able to bring students from New York City to see one production in the fall and one production in the spring. And we also have a Shakespeare program where teaching artists go into the schools and they partner with classroom teachers around a title that the students are usually reading as part of their standard curriculum. But instead of just reading the plays, we bring them to life. We activate them through acting and sometimes through full productions or creative enhancements of productions. And so on Wednesday, I actually went to Lincoln Center as an observer to watch another teaching artist, Ben Johnson, facilitate a workshop for several high school classes that he will be working with. I think they had been reading Othello and now they're moving into Macbeth, and so he might be working with them on Macbeth. But it was such a delight. The students are invited to actually come to Lincoln Center so that they can come into the city, they can come into a rehearsal room in a working theater. They begin to see, like, oh, there's this whole other industry of writers and technicians and administrators and artists and actors that do all of these different jobs, and this is a potential job. Maybe if I'm excited by the arts, this is something I want to do. And then they come into this rehearsal room and they get introduced to Shakespeare Every teaching artist has different ways of going about it that depend on the group that they're meeting and what the teachers want and need, what the artists themselves are passionate and excited about. And it was so fun to watch the students. They played a really quick game that got them on their feet and got them activated. And something that people may not think about when they think about arts education, but it's such an important part of personal development for all the humans. But for young people, theater particularly helps you learn skills around collaboration, around using your voice and speaking, around listening deeply to other people, around generating a critical thought and creative thinking, and then applying that to problem solving, finding and expressing your voice. What it is to be a fully expressed human feels like the point of even being alive. It's such a point of being an actor that I'm so excited and passionate about it, and excited that young people get to have that experience. And these young people were fire. They were very excited to tackle the language. They picked up things so quickly, I was sort of mind boggled, and I didn't mean to make them feel in any way that I expected less for them. I was really just using myself as a comparison point. And when I was their age, I would not have been able to pick Shakespeare up off of a piece of paper or off a projection on the wall and speak it with the meaning so clearly embedded that the audience, after one or two reads, can understand what I'm talking about. That's amazing. So I was very excited by them, and many of them had previously, because their teacher was so dope, memorized monologues from Othello, and they brought them in and they performed them for us. Which we didn't know they were going to do. And I was like, what? So I was grateful to get to witness the young people engaging in language, engaging with poetry, and finding their own ways into it, and finding it in their bodies, and finding the relevance that it might have for them. And so, that was a really exciting way to go spend last Wednesday. Also, I'm very excited. I'm voicing the main character of a new audio fiction series. The series is called Sucker, and I don't want to give too much away. I don't want to spoil alert. What I think I can say is I play a woman named Gretchen, who is in middle age, and her life she's really hit rock bottom, or at least she thinks she has, because everything in her life has gone wrong. And she's been brought into a police station where she is confessing to the murder of a woman who was at the top of a beauty pyramid scam. And the series will be sort of unwinding what happens along the way for this woman to get herself to this place. The script was written by Emily Saunders, and she's an incredible writer. I'm so grateful that I met her in a writing group many years ago when I was first coming up with the ideas for Hot Angry Mom. Her voice is powerful. She's so smart. She's so thoughtful. This is so fun. It's entertaining fun, but it also speaks to capitalism and what we think of as success. And I myself am guilty of the desperate hunger for success. Or whatever my definition of it is. And this character, it's really what drives her. And it takes her to some pretty ugly places, but very exciting to act. So last week I had 2 rehearsals with the director, and we started recording yesterday on Monday at Edge Studios, where they do a lot of voiceover, audio fiction, animated stuff, all that beautiful things. So what else do I want to say? I want to give a shout out to Wynn Handman, who was my acting teacher for about 6 months. Thanks, Brian. I'm really excited. I can't wait till we've recorded all of it and it's been, edited and mixed and shared with the world. I will definitely be promoting that one so much because it's so exciting. So I wanted to shout out Wynn Handman, who is an acting teacher. He's no longer with us. He started the American Place Theater here in New York City. He had his own studio as an acting teacher. And he often prepared actors with hot seating, which is not a technique that is distinct only to him. but he would interview you in character. So you would come in as your character and answer questions, and through this process, activate your imagination and begin to fill in the world of this character. So it starts with whatever you're given on the page as the basic given circumstances and truth of the character. But the creative work of filling that in is so much more. And that's what makes acting very exciting, when it's very specific and unique to the body that is helping to tell a particular story. And so Emily, who wrote it but is also directing it, had me come as this character Gretchen in role over 2 different rehearsals to 3 different points in the story. And obviously I won't spoiler alert, I'm not sure how that goes. I won't give anything away that will take away your enjoyment of the series, but it's everything. And also I've actually never worked on a project like this in a studio. I've done ADR, which is like redoing your own voice in a film if the sound didn't get picked up cleanly and you need to re-record. But I haven't done, I've done one other audio fiction project that was a comedy that's out now on Spotify called Moose on a Highway. And I'm a bunch of different characters and I have a bunch of different dialects and I just have like little bits that I do throughout that. But this is the first piece like this that feels like, it feels like working on a whole play, because we got together in a room, all of us, all the people in it, and we had like an 8-hour rehearsal where we read through all 7 of the scripts together in order and really got to like feel the momentum of the story. But then we're also like working like you would in a film, like we're just recording bits. So putting the actors together, we're recording out of order, but we're recording according to timelines, right? So the voice things will make sense. Emily's done a terrific job breaking it down so that we can record this, and it's super exciting. And I got to work with Lorraine Rodriguez-Reyes, who is one of my dear friends, one of my girls, who is also in Hot Angry Mom. She plays the director in episode, it's the theater episode. And depending on what cut or version, it's all got different names. But it's Hail Aphrodite is the name of it. She's in that episode, and she's also an associate producer. And she is a recurring role on the TV show Magnolia, which you can watch, that's out right now. She's so dope. And Sheldon Shaw, who this is the first time I've worked with Sheldon, but Sheldon is awesome. So the 3 of us yesterday got to do the police interrogation scenes. And they were so juicy. All right, so yeah, I will tell you more about that when that comes out. I also I do have a social life, even though I almost always talk about work. And my husband took me on a fantastic date in the middle of the week on a Thursday. He took me to a restaurant called Quality Meats, which is a terrible name for a restaurant in my opinion, but the food is incredible. And it was Wine Week in New York City last week. I'm assuming that it works like Restaurant Week, which is when, at least in New York City, there'll be whole weeks like where all the price of food is significantly more accessible. So you can go into some of the fanciest restaurants in the city that might normally be outside of your budget, and they'll give you a prefix for like an affordable rate so that you can try all kinds of foods, no matter what your budget is like, which is one of the reasons why New York City is one of the best places to live, despite people's fear about crime and whatever else people think. I love it here. I love the opportunities. I love all the people. I love all the things I get to do, like go have lunch on Thursday. We split some type of like steak and gnocchi and broccoli, and we had like 10 different glasses of wine. Well, I didn't drink all of that, but I drank some of that. And I had some oysters and some bread, and anyway, that was delicious. So thank you to him. That was a wonderful sort of surprise date. Also, I facilitated The Great Gatsby, a solo performance at the Algonquin Theater in New Jersey. The Great Gatsby is performed as a solo adaptation by Bryce Foley, adapted by a company called Literature to Life. And so that was intense. It was raining on the morning that we were trying to get to the theater and load in, and we got a little lost and confused, but we made it, and we had a super tight tech, and I was very proud of myself because it was my job to connect with the education department to get clear how I would start the show and do my pre-show warm-up, how long the show, we know how long the show runs, but then we have a post-show Q&A with the artist. And so it's my job to sort of figure out who's coming, what questions are the most appropriate, how do we set everyone up for a positive experience to understand what they're going to see. And then I call the show like a stage manager. Sometimes I'm running the tech. It just depends on where we are. But at the Algonquin, they had a wonderful team who were able to run the sound and the lights. But we had to build them, and we had to get them downloaded and set up. And we had like 45 minutes to get the whole show teched and then do it. But we did, and I'm really excited for Bryce that he got a standing ovation from the entire audience. A solo show is when one person plays all the characters in a story, and so he does a solo performance of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald, which is no small feat in terms of the heightened language and then playing all of those roles. And his different characters are delicious and just a magical feat to watch. So it was lovely to be part of that. I've talked about that company, Literature to Life, before. When I was talking about teaching I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter by Erica Sanchez, the novel, and bringing a solo show into a high school in New York like a week or so ago, that was that same company. Sweet. Let's see, what else did I want to say? Oh, and then the most magical part of my week. Yeah. Oh, you started reading the book, I Am Not Your Perfect Mexican Daughter? I think that's what you were saying you were reading. Yes. How are you liking it so far? I really love when it's good so far. Yeah, I love when Julia gets to the art museum part. I won't. It's not really a plot spoiler, but she's just, like, in sometimes with young people we do this. We try to filter their experience of the world to protect them, but sometimes we sanitize it. Although in a world of social media and the internet, like, kids see all kinds of things, so when we try to sanitize things, it's really weird. Oh, you read that chapter? Yeah. Okay. So I love that. Yeah. Basically, she sees the beheading of John the Baptist. These women beheading John the Baptist, is very violent painting, and she's like, wow. She's so excited by it because of the kind of art she's been exposed to, but because she's feeling so much anger inside of her, that to see art that expresses anger, frustration, powerful women is sort of exciting and curious, and makes her a little bit awake. So that's me advocating for all kinds of art, books, museums, theater. Go get them. And then, okay, so the one more big thing before I read you this article I want to talk about. Okay, so I went to Bali in the winter for sort of the Christmas, New Year's, that time frame for me. And one of the people that I studied with was Dr. Booty Miller, who has spent a lot of time learning so many different things. He's certified in Fitzmaurice voice work. He's studied deeply with Balinese communities and has sort of a mentor, and has like a partnership with the UNESCO Heritage Foundation. He's studied in different countries, different kinds of art forms, but he's also studied deeply mask work. With his mentor was Per Bra, who was someone who is still Per's still alive. That I was able to study with in Bali twice. Anyway, so I met Booty in Bali, and I find them to be an extraordinary educator and human who teaches not how to be an artist, but like for life, because life is how you make art. Something incredible about the Balinese is that every single person in the Balinese community is an artist. They don't even really have a name for it because it's not separate from what it means to be a healthy, whole person. So there are people who make masks. There are people who dance in masks. There are people who make music. There are people who make paintings. Everyone has some sort of role in creating and creative output. And that's actually a necessary part of a healthy society. And I feel like every artist, if you can, at least once in your life, make a pilgrimage to Bali and kind of understand how integral art is to the spirituality and to the everyday living. It's just never been more palpable for me anywhere that I've traveled in the world. And I think 1 or 2 episodes ago, I talked about travel and like I named the 50 countries or something that I'd been to, so I won't do that again to you. But I was so deeply moved by my experience there and by Booty, and so I signed up for this weekend intensive mask workshop from Friday through Sunday. I think I'm gonna reflect more deeply and put that out in a Substack newsletter this week. I have a Substack called Truly, Madly, Deeply, and what are some of my big takeaways? So basically, what do we do? What is a mask workshop? You're like, what are you talking about, lady? Oh my God, Valerie's here. Valerie feels like she's having breakfast with me and talking about Bali, and so excited to hear about this workshop in my Substack. Hey, Val, I'm so glad you're here. Valerie and I met in Bali, speaking of. She now lives in Seattle, right? Seattle. I think that's right. We met in Bali in 2019, and immediately it was like, she's the best. I love her. And we've stayed friends ever since. And yes, Seattle. And then 2 weeks ago, we were at the Grotowski conference called the Assembly here in New York City together. So we were able to be in embodied space, which was so exciting. But yeah, so okay, what did we do this weekend? We sat in a circle and we begin with introductions. And the introductions usually go something like, who are you? Why are you here? And what is your intention? Like, what are you hoping to get from this experience? And I just want to say, even though that sounds simple, I want to wake up every morning and do that. Like, okay, like who am I? Why am I here? What is my intention for every single day? Because every time I sit in a circle with Booty and I say those things, I name something and then I get it. And there are things that feel like they need years of therapy to figure out, or a ton of fucking self-help books. In Bali, I think I had felt really lost, and my intention was, like I just want to speak loving kindness to myself. I want to feel love and kind and feel proud of myself with no strings attached. And I want to release my hold around ideas I have about what it means to be successful or a successful artist, so that I can be open to whatever the universe, the world has in store for me, and so that I can not suffer as much as I was making myself suffer at the end of last year. And within 2 days, I felt so clear about who I am. I'm an artist, right? It's how I see the world. Every day I create my own life. I create meals. No matter who you are an artist and you are a creator because you're creating your own life. And sometimes it feels like we don't have many choices depending on what's going on in your life, but we often have more choices than we realize. And at the very least, we have the choice of where to put our attention, which can help us decide whether we're going to suffer or whether we're going to be at peace or ease or just nothingness. I think is the opposite of suffering if you get into Zen Buddhism sort of stuff. But in any case, so Bali was a huge healing. I was like, I know who I am, and I'm so happy with who I am, and now I'm out making all this cool stuff. And I am less fixated on some of the outer trappings of success that I was thinking about at the end of last year that was making me unhappy. And so I went into this weekend again with Booty, and I sat down in the circle and I introduced myself and I talked about why I had come to the workshop, what brought me there. And then I said that I just wanted to be love, that I wanted to practice love, so that the immense amount of love I feel for everyone else, which is a great deal, that I would turn that sort of energy in for myself and feel that for myself as deeply. And Booty was like, you already are. You already have it. You don't have to do anything at the very beginning. And I was like, that doesn't help because I have negative thoughts all the time, and those negative thoughts store the stories, they start to hurt me, and then I get all stressed out. So you can watch my whole nervous system go bonkers right in front of you as I heard his response. And then and then we got into the practice, and I will tell you the amount of love I felt during that weekend for everyone else and for myself is incredible. We sat in satsang, which is like a meditation in community, and went through a process of remembering who we are. And who we are is collective divine. You can call it whatever means the most to you. God, Goddess, Allah, Jesus, Shiva, flower. Like, and it's not to belittle any particular religious perspective on how to connect with divine energy, but whether or not you go to church or practice a certain faith, like, that's maybe your way in and understanding of the divine, and it's beautiful and holy, and do it. But just we through that practice of sitting with each other, we just remember that we are that divine consciousness, that all the other stories we have about ourselves are just stories. And for me, I had this epic learning around tension and ego. So the tension that we hold in our body is our ego holding on to an identity, to a self-identity. Like, this is who I am. I'm Mel House. And whatever stories I've made up about who Mel House is and how like she works in the world. And we went through an exercise that invited us to release into gravity and allow breath to kind of take over, and release into gravity and allow breath to take over, as he led us through a series of questions that just remind us that we are that awareness, the awareness that's able to watch, the awareness that's able to watch myself speak and feel embarrassed by what I just said, or all the other things that happened. Because in this plane that we're all in together, it's physical, right? Our bodies are physical. Even our energy is physical. And so, yeah, we had this beautiful sort of releasing into that greater collective whole. What else did we do? That was at the beginning. And then we danced a lot to incredible music. And the music is a kind of image, an offering to the instrument, the body of all of us. And receiving that image and allowing it to move us helps release the tension of the individual I. It warms up the muscles, it warms up the skeletal system, all of the physical reality of our physical, skeletal, muscular body, but it also warms up or activates our spiritual body, our energetic body. And Booty was really talking about that there are many levels of awareness. And that part of an actor's craft is to become aware of the layers of awareness and to get to play in them. A lot of my training has been around sort of a psychological analysis of the words on the page, and a sort of emotional training to be with and present with other people and to feel and receive and send energy. So it's been around my thinking body, and my energetic body are really, really well trained. But I'm really excited to do more work like this mask play and some Michael Chekhov work and the Grotowski work and these other things that are more physically embodied practices, because it is interesting. And I know this as a voice coach, when you change the shape of your body, it changes your breath. It changes what you think. It changes how you feel. It changes the story you have about who you are. And moving your body in a certain way can cause you to just suddenly start crying. And then you put it upright and it's gone. Just like little babies, because they're so free. We're so free when we come into the world that we can cry all day without losing our voices, because we don't have tension. We haven't locked in things. We haven't made decisions about like who we are yet. And that sort of emotional and physical freedom is part of the work that actors practice in order to have instruments capable of feeling everything. And something else very wise that Booty said that I really loved is like, we're not here to be happy, which I was like, what? I am too. Like, everything I'm doing is trying to make myself happy. But we're not on this planet to just be happy. We're on this planet to feel all of the feelings. right? To go through all of the various experiences that are manifested in this physical world, but also knowing that it's all a bunch of stories, right? It's all a bit made up and projected, depending on, different philosophies and what you think about and believe. What else did we do? So we danced a lot. We did some energetic work that blew my mind. Like, we were feeling our energy bodies. We were doing it with each other, the vibrations in the room. Like, we were changing the atmosphere collectively, and that was wild. I was even able to think about my alignment differently in ways that were really helpful to me as a person who holds a lot of tension and has to have like a medical procedure about my tension this week, which I'll talk more about next week. And so to really rethink about that, and actually maybe I will talk about it just briefly now. So something that Budi reminded us, that the swastika is actually Hindi, and it doesn't mean what the Nazis stole it and turned it into something else that's part of a very ugly and vile legacy. So now when we see that image, we think of all of the atrocities that are associated with it. But to know its origin in Hindi culture and in Balinese culture, which I'm going to explain in a moment, it's sort of important if you travel in Bali, because I saw swastikas on gates or houses, and I was like, what is that? Why would they have that? Like, what does that mean? And then I learned about it, and then I heard other travelers have a similar like reaction to it. But basically, if you think about a cross, and you think about the top of the cross is going up towards the heavens, and you think about the bottom of the cross going down towards the earth. And then you think about this part going into the future. And if you go the other way, you're going into the past. So we're looking at past, present, into the heavens, down in the earth plane. And finding your own center is actually about kind of finding not a singular balance point, because it's always moving, but it's like, in life, we're going to travel in all of these different directions, right? We're always moving. We're never actually static. But to come back to like a balanced, a neutral place, some sort of center place. All of those words are imperfect for what I mean. But it's an awareness of these points. And then on the swastika, there's like little murmurs. I'm like, what's the word for that? There's like little dashes that hang off the end of the crosses. And that's because the image is actually meant to go this way. Like a spiral spinning, kind of like the spine or DNA or like the cycles of life and that kind of thing. And it's always in movement, which is what that means. So all I want to say is Budi dropped some deep knowledge, and it was really beautiful. I'm so grateful for it. I'll write more about it and sort of try to process it, but that was part of my week. Like, yeah, I get stressed and I walk around like angry. I'm like, why are you have everything. Like, let's be joyful. Let's make that choice. Like, what an exciting week I got to have. But we live in a world of mad chaos. So I'm not going to talk more, but I do want to shout out to Budi and thank Budi, but also Budi, the community that Budi put together. I was in an incredible ensemble of humans. And I'm really grateful for people's presence and their authenticity. People shared pieces of their own story or things they were working through, and it gave me permission and it healed me. And I felt so much love for every single human in that circle. And then I sort of imagined, like, what would it be like to give that kind of shine and love to myself? And whew, yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna keep going on that, see how it goes. I'm gonna have to put on my glasses, friends, because there's two things I want to do. I'm gonna read you an article from NPR, and then I'm gonna tell you the response, because it's fire and it's everything to the title of this whole episode. All right, so this is the education section of NPR, and the title is Education Department Warns Schools, Eliminate DEI Programs or Lose Funding. This was published on April the 3rd, and Janaki Mehta is the author. Apologize if I mispronounced your name, Janaki. But here's a little picture. That is the Department of Education lady, Linda McMahon. The caption under her photo says, Secretary of Education Linda McMahon speaks to reporters at the White House. The Education Department sent a letter to state leaders warning of the potential loss of funds for K through 12 schools that don't follow its interpretation of civil rights laws. And I think maybe the image in that title was also pulled from the AP from someone called Ben Curtis. I'm not sure if he took the photo, but credit to all the people. Okay, so here we go. Education. How the Education Department helps students with disabilities get an education. The Trump administration has threatened to withhold federal funds from public schools that have diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. In a letter to state leaders across the country, the U.S. Education Department said Title I funding, which is targeted to schools with high proportion of low-income students, would be threatened if schools failed to follow its interpretation of civil rights laws. Any violation of civil rights law, it says, including the use of diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI programs to advantage one's race over another is impermissible. School and state officials are required to sign a certification letter attached to the memo and return it to the department within 10 days, proving that they are complying with the directive. I'm going to keep reading, but I just want to say that making a mandate without asking questions, without gathering information, giving a very short time period to push something through is not thoughtful leadership. It's not demonstrative of caring for the people that you're working with. It's not building coalition around a broad number of perspectives. And it's like, hi, we are gonna undo all of the civil rights legislation in schools, and we're gonna make you sign paper, or we're gonna take away your funds so that you can stay open and teach kids. All right, I will keep reading. By the way, I scan these, but I pull the headlines, so I'm trying to react in real time, but then I can't see, so I'm going, okay. All right, let's come back to the point of the story, sorry. All right, so this is the latest in a series of letters the department has issued to state and local school leaders. One focused on student privacy, another abruptly ending COVID relief funding promised to schools, and another issue guidance on how to use federal funds to support parent choice in public education, which I have a lot of feelings about. I'll just say that any privatization of education ends up hurting all of the students. It's literally like, hi, we're gonna take and give resources to some kids, and it's gonna end up being at the expense of other kids, because not all school districts have equal tax money, which is how schools get funded, is like based on where you live and how much money the people in your neighborhood make, and then what is the local tax rate, and then that's the money given to the schools, which is why some students in the United States go to schools in buildings that are immaculate, that have swimming pools and horse stables and all kinds of sports teams, and they get to go on field trips, and they have educators that feel well supported in classrooms that are not absolutely ridiculous. More money you have, the better the school that you go to is likely to be in terms of the structural resources to support students. And I understand, because I've worked in some of the toughest schools in the United States. Like, my first job was at a school that was debilitated, where there was excessive violence because the students came from very low income areas where there wasn't adequate healthcare, food care, social services, where communities have been devastated by systematic oppression over many, many years and had so much trauma. And these students actually need more resources to thrive, but are dealing with so much less. That's not fucking equity. And I've also worked at some of the fanciest schools in the United States, here in New York City. Schools, I mean, I don't even know what the current tuition rates are. $50,000 a year for kindergarten, for K through 12, but you've got 12 kids in your classroom, right? And you're gonna learn 3 languages and be able to be fluent by the time you're in 12th grade. Like, you have all the clubs, all the activities, all the advantages. You've studied abroad multiple times by the time you get to 12th grade. Like, those are things available to some people. So education in our country is not equal. It is already not fair. and a lot of the policies that they're supporting are in the name of fairness, but they're not, because it's not recognizing the inequities that already exist in our country, and it's not about getting each person what they need. It's hard to know whether it's just intentionally abusive or just ignorance, right? Like, anyway, all right, coming back. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk where I preach a little bit. Let's go back to the article that's been well researched and published by NPR. Okay, so while Secretary of Education Linda McMahon has not clearly defined what the administration considers a violation of civil rights law, the agency issued a letter in February that notified educational institutions that they must cease using race preferences and stereotypes as a factor in their admissions, hiring, promotion, and scholarship. In a related document addressing frequently asked questions about how the administration would interpret Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the agency said, "Many schools have advanced discriminatory policies and practices under the banner of DEI initiatives." The document went on to say that schools could engage in historical observations like Black History Month so long as they do not engage in racial exclusion or discrimination. While the federal government is only responsible for about 10% of money that goes to schools, Title I is one of the largest federal grants overseen by the Education Department. In the current fiscal year, the federal government set aside more than $18.38 billion for Title I. Nearly 90% of U.S. school districts benefit from benefit from the program. Federal financial assistance is a privilege, not a right, Craig Traynor, the department's acting assistant secretary for civil rights, said in a statement. When state education commissioners accept federal funds, they agree to abide by federal anti-discrimination requirements. Unfortunately, we have seen too many schools flout or outright violate these obligations, including by using DEI programs to discriminate against one group of Americans to favor another based on identity characteristics. What they're talking about is trying to protect white people who are not being discriminated against, white people who are not being put at a disadvantage when we study other cultures or other religions or read books, so many of which are banned, right? Because they don't want you to have the perspective, the ability to empathize with a broad range of people. And they're acting like white is the default for history, for all knowledge, and that somehow that encompasses and includes everyone. And suddenly, like, oh, that's just humanity. We don't see color, right? But as long as the color is white, we don't see it. It's totally fine. All right. I'm gonna get to, okay, whoo, breathe. Many educators worry that the removal of this money could have significant impacts, especially to rural and low-income communities that rely heavily on federal funding. The American Federation of Teachers, with 1.8 million members, the nation's second largest teachers union, is part of a lawsuit aimed at blocking the department's recent civil rights guidelines. In the middle of a school year, this is a quote, right? In the middle of a school year, the president is trying to bully the very same school districts that he insisted just a few weeks ago should be in charge of education. The AFT's president, Randy Weingarten, said in a statement, "He's wielding a cudgel of billions in federal aid to tens of millions of children of all races and ethnicities to force educators to kowtow to his to his politics and ideology." In the rural Lucerne Valley Unified School District in the high desert of California, Superintendent Peter Livingston says he's still digesting the latest civil rights guidelines. He says about 90% of his district students are considered economically disadvantaged, and all of its schools rely on Title I. If the money were to be threatened, that would have a huge impact, he says. But he also favors the efforts to reduce the role of the education department in local schools, especially if it means federal dollars could be used more efficiently. He says his district uses Title I funds to hire staff, to keep class sizes smaller, and for academic programs that help level the playing field for students regardless of their income. If the regulations are in place that we have to follow, he adds, that's what we'd be doing in order to ensure that we have the money to serve our students. All right, so that was the article by NPR. And what I really wanted to get to, I was just trying to give more context. And I have no idea what I'm trying to read through the screen, if you can even, if like the meaning is coming through, if it's making sense. So apologies if it feels like a long sort of stretch, but this is what I want to get to. And hopefully YouTube will not cut me off when this replays for the people who are on the replay. So this is what I'm excited about. So in response to the edict from the Trump administration, giving every school district only 10 days to respond, one brave school district superintendent wrote this, and their name is withheld for obvious reasons. They wrote, "Still not signing. A superintendent's response to the Department of Education's anti-DEI ultimatum. The federal government gave us 10 days to sign away our values. Here's our answer. April 8th, 2025, to whom it may unfortunately concern at the U.S. Department of Education. Thank you for your April 3rd memorandum, which I read several times, not because it was legally persuasive, but because I kept checking to see if it was satire. Alas, it appears you are serious. You've asked me, as superintendent of a public school district, to sign a certification declaring that we are not violating federal civil rights law by apparently acknowledging that civil rights issues still exist. You cite Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, then proceed to argue that offering targeted support to historically marginalized students is somehow discriminatory. That's not just legally incoherent, it's a philosophical Mobius strip of bad faith. Let me see if I understand your logic. If we acknowledge racial disparities, that's racism. If we help English learners catch up, that's favoritism. If we give a disabled child a reading aid, we're denying someone else the chance to struggle equally. And if we train teachers to understand bias, we're indoctrinating them. But if we train them to ignore it, we're restoring neutrality. How convenient that your sudden concern for equal treatment seems to apply only when it's used to silence conversations around race, identity, or inequality. Let's talk about our English learners. Would you like us to stop offering translation services during parent-teacher conferences? Should we cancel bilingual support staff to avoid the appearance of special treatment? Or would you prefer we just teach all content in English and hope for the best, since acknowledging linguistic barriers now counts as discrimination? And while we're at it, what's your official stance on IEPs? Because last I checked, individual educational plans intentionally give students with disabilities extra support. Should we start removing accommodations to avoid offending the able-bodied majority? Maybe we should cancel occupational therapy altogether so no one feels left out. If a student with a learning disability receives extended time on a test, should we now give everyone extended time, even if they don't need it, just to keep the playing field sufficiently flat and unthinking? Your letter paints equity as a threat, but equity is not a threat. It's the antidote to decades of failure. Equity is what ensures all students have a fair shot. Equity is what makes it possible for a child with a speech impediment to present at the science fair. It's what helps the nonverbal kindergartner use an AAC device. It's what gets the newcomer from Ukraine the ESL, English as a second language support she needs without being left behind. And let's not skip past the most insulting part of your directive, the 10-day deadline. A national directive sent to thousands of districts with the subtlety of a ransom note, demanding signatures within a week and a half, or else you'll cut funding for supports. You'll cut funding that supports, wait for it, low-income students, disabled students, and English learners. Brilliant, just brilliant. A moral victory for the bullies and bureaucrats everywhere. The same motherfuckers who want to say they're pro-life, that want to advocate for the life of a fetus while a mother is dying, who are currently incarcerating women for having miscarriages. These are the same people that don't want our children in public school. They don't want them to have equal education. They don't want to have to pay for someone else's problems or needs. So no, we will not be signing your certification. We are not interested in joining your theater of compliance. We are not interested in gutting equity programs that serve actual children in exchange for your political approval. We are not interested in abandoning our legal, ethical, and educational responsibilities to satisfy your fear of facts. We are interested in teaching the truth. We are interested in honoring our students' identities. We're going to say that again. We are interested in honoring our students' identities. We are interested in building a school system where no child is invisible and no teacher is punished for caring too much. And yes, we are prepared to fight this in the courts, in the press, in the community, in Congress, if need be, because this district will not be remembered as the one that folded under pressure. We will be remembered as the one that stood its ground, not for politics, but for kids. Sincerely, District Superintendent, still teaching, still caring, still not signing. I don't know about you, but that gave me all the feels. I love that human potentially risking their job, potentially risking funding, but definitely trying to navigate on how to get the funding for their students to ultimately care for the students. But I really want to just honor right now all the people that are resisting, that are standing up, that are saying no to the immoral demands that are coming down in so many areas, whether it be education or science or climate health or reproductive freedom or immigration. Thanks, Valerie. Thank you so much for being here. Brian, thank you for being here, and anyone else who watches it on the replay. I just also want to thank the people that are resisting. And this is a tiny little way of me practicing that act for myself, of speaking up in my spine and talking about things I care about, even if I'm not an expert or I don't know all the things, sharing my point of view and sharing why I care. Anyway, I've been talking forever. So I am going to go. I'm going to thank you all. Also, in the comments is a click to vote for our series, Hot Angry Mom. We are shortlisted for a People's Telly Award. So if you could click on that and vote for us, we would be so grateful. If you could subscribe to our channel, we would love it. And I'm here every Tuesday around noonish when it works for my life, my schedule, to go live for Truth Tuesdays. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. And I forget how to click out. There we go.